All right, tell me who you are and what you do.
I am Bill Wilson, and I am NARM's Director of Digital Strategy and Business Development.
I know you well and I know your background, but could you tell the readers of HYPEBOT, I guess, a brief bio on yourself?
Sure. In 1989, I started a little punk rock label called Blackout Records, and as that grew over the years, I worked for a couple of independent distribution companies, including Red and Caroline, and ultimately this culminated in running a label called E-Rake for a year or so. And then I was fortunate enough, or unfortunate enough, to have MCA Records come along, and I got what's called a first look deal for my label. And then by 2000, I kind of decided that the indie world was too hard to make money from as I was getting older, so I kind of jumped the fence into the technology space and into startups. So I worked at a couple of different social network startups, and then I went to a mobile company called Selfish, and then I wound up being the head of mobile sales for Atlantic Records. And all of those experiences in both running my own label and distribution companies and major labeldom led me to work for NARM.
Awesome. How long have you been with NARM?
Only a couple of months.
Okay.
So I'm a total noob.
Awesome. I've been told by some of the folks at NARM that you've actually reinvigorated the staff, and because of your excitement, what projects, plans do you have in the foreseeable future?
Well, NARM right now is an established organization, but there's a lot of good, and we're focused right now. For 50 years, it has been sort of the nexus of discussions between major labels and big CD retailers. Now what we're doing is we're evolving the mission to include not just music, but things related to music. So we're talking to, and right now, on the board is not just Best Buy, but you look at iTunes, and you look at Verizon, and you look at Amazon as a digital provider, and they're a part of NARM as well. So I'm excited to work with, venture capitalists. I'm excited to work with application developers. I'm excited to work with software companies. I'm excited to work with social media companies who all are tangentially involved in music, to actually bring them into the fold, because ultimately, it's a very fractured marketplace, and we need to move forward with that type of strategy.
Gotcha. Okay. You come from a label background, and you mentioned, that you're not as active with that. Is there any advice that you can give to labels out there?
I just kind of, with all the jobs that I've had, I haven't been able to dedicate as much time to it as possible, and the proliferation of digital technologies has enabled more and more people to get involved in independent music. When I first started the label, I was fortunate enough to be part of a very small number of people who were doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And as computer technology got less expensive, more people could go into the studios and record, and the barriers to entries into the business got really low. So the competition is very fierce, especially in sort of the lowest part of vying for people's attention. And it's kind of, I had some great successes in the mid-90s, and I was very happy about it, but you're only as good as your last record, and when you start zigging when you should have zagged, it's kind of like that's the end of the ball game. So I took my experience and my love for technology and sort of melded them both and kind of rebranded myself, I guess. But that's kind of like where I stand.
What tools do you see labels and artists needing to get on board with?
On the business side, or on the
anything, marketing, business? I know you guys use Twitter. I know a lot of labels are doing that.
Social media is like, there was a great panel about that at the Music Business Crash Course, which was sponsored by the A2IM, and they, I know the panel talked a lot about sort of, how to leverage social media and how important it is for artists to be genuine.
Yeah.
Dorothy from Wind Up talked about how it's really important for artists to be out there and to actively communicate and to have a lot of that two-way communication. It's not just posting every once in a while. It's that consistent communication, that constant conversation with the fan.
Sure.
That's really important. But it's also how to politically navigate the system. And there's also, people talk about how the label, has lost its effectiveness. But I think I wrote this when we were doing Indie HQ. There's a lot of thankless, invisible jobs that have to get done. Just like the NARM convention is this sort of pristine. Convention on the outside, but there's a lot of work in the back and that goes into it. Just as to put out a record, there's a lot of things where there's publicists who need to get things out there. There's people who need to design websites. There's people who need to design packaging, and artists don't necessarily have all those skills.
Sure.
So it's important to be able to understand what the needs of your business are, and then be able to hire the right people or get involved with the right people who can help you with what you're not good at.
A debate that we have on HYPEBOT is the album format. There's a debate whether it's going away, dying. Like, do you have an opinion?
Yeah. I mean, who's to say what an album is, right?
Yeah, sure.
It's a collection. It's a collection, but who's to say you don't buy an annual collection of songs? Who's to say you don't start with saying, I'm going to pay $40 for whatever Rancid releases over the next X number of years, X number of months, and iTunes was the first one to do that with Depeche Mode thing. I think that a lot of the future of music is going to be based on aggregation and filtration. I have my list of favorite bands. I want their music to magically appear in my iPod as soon as it becomes available. Is that what the new album is? It's not necessarily the album used to be the period at the end of the sentence. Now the album can be the capital. It's almost you start with the name of the album and then you fill up the bucket over the course of X number of years or X number of months or X number of days or whatever. But that the album is really a collection based on a temporal snapshot.
So you're saying maybe that it's not dead, it's just the definition of the album is changing.
I'm an album buyer.
Yeah.
I like complete collections from artists. There's a lot of people, maybe the casual radio listener, hit-driven listener isn't that, but maybe the new albums are, we'll set you up with a digital package and you can get the #1 at country radio for the next 12 months directed to your device. That is an album in itself. That's what I call music, or whatever those collections are, right? Sort of, in just a different format. You just pay for it up front, and you get it delivered to you on a subscription basis, potentially, or
so it'd be almost like a podcast feed,
yeah,
but maybe
exactly.
Yeah.
It's like a paid podcast where you're getting all the #1s right to your devices.
All right, let's do that.
So,
That's a good idea.
There's a lot of different ways to do that, and the Depeche Mode thing is a really cool first, really very public way to demonstrate that.
Awesome. Well, let's wrap up here. Is there anything that you want to say in closing?
When I was running a little label, I don't think I ever realized the importance of trade associations. I don't think I ever realized the true importance of networking. And you and I talked about this yesterday.
Yeah.
Is kind of like getting together with people who are in the business and talking about new ideas and really communicating that is very important. So I think that A2IM, NARM are two very important organizations to artists, to managers, to everybody to really get involved and discuss what's becoming more and more of a factory marketplace.
Awesome. Great closing. Thank you very much, Bob.
Cool.